Okay, well, I think we will be starting the webinar. Welcome everybody to this webinar, Investing in Space, Public or Private Financing. As you may know, the agency idea, which is the organizer of this webinar, we have the aerospace sector is one of the strategic sector in Andalusia, and that's why we have we are the first region, for example, in Spain, who currently has a specific strategy for the sector, and so we are dedicating many efforts and resources to the development of the sector in Andalusia. And currently, for example, one of the main projects that we are supporting by the regional government is, for example, the candidacy of the city of Seville to be the headquarters of the Spanish Space Agency, which will be decided in the next few months. And as we are entering this week, the World Space Week, we are organizing this event in the framework of the Foro del Espacio, who coordinates all the activities from the city of Sevilla, and as well in the framework of the Enterprise Europe Network, which is the biggest network for support of SMEs. And we are in Andalusia the lead partner of the Andalusian node of this network, which is called CSEAND. Let me tell you that the event is going to be recorded, so you will be able to check the presentation later. And with that, I think the best thing is just to present the speakers of our first panel. So first we will have Gonzalo Martín de Mercado, who is a Business Development Officer at the European Space Agency. Gonzalo is a project manager with more than 15 years of experience and has evolved from an engineering background focused on space technologies to a business-oriented focus. And currently he manages a team of international people inside the European Space Agency, focused on delivering sustainable commercial services using space technologies. Hello, Gonzalo. How are you?
Fernando, thank you very much for the invitation to be here. I am well, thank you very much, and I wish you a very successful candidacy, because actually the Spanish Space Agency is a very important milestone for the country that from ISA we are supporting. Okay, we hope so. Thank you very much, Gonzalo. And also the speaker who is sharing the panel with Gonzalo is Ion Padilla. Ion is the CEO and chairman of WIGO. And to give you some lines about Ion, after studying computing engineering, he was selected to work at the CERN in Geneva, where he currently alternates between Geneva and Malaga. Then he joined Hewlett-Packard Enterprise as business consultant, working for C-level executives from companies such as Nestlé, Swisscom, Carrefour, or the United Nations. And some years later, Ion decided to change course again and jump into the void founding of his first company, Eic. And after that, WIGO, which is the one he will talk about in this panel. Hello, Ion.
Hello. I'm fine. Thank you for having me, and I hope we can, with Gonzalo, create some meaningful conversations here.
Okay, so I give you the floor to both of you.
Very good. So, well, Ion, normally, just to change the thing, why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience in trying to get private funding? Instead of myself starting, which is normally what happens, let's give the floor to industry, because this is also a little bit about private financing.
Fantastic. Should I do first small introduction of the company so that everybody knows a little bit what WIGO is all about? Will that be fine?
I think that would be amazing.
Wonderful. Right, so let's go. So basically what we do at WIGO is that we process satellite data with machine learning to optimize the production and the trading of clean energy. And this is primarily coming from a challenge that we realize that I think everybody is aware, which is that classic fossil fuel-based energy production is very simple to forecast, right? So if we imagine that we have a kilogram of coal, that we can burn in a thermal power plant, we basically know how much energy we're going to extract out of it, right? When it comes to clean energy, it's not that simple. We don't know how much water, wind, or sun we'll have tomorrow, needless to say, in 1 or 2 months in the future, and it creates huge friction in the markets, and that's why we have such high volatility and potential price problems in the future as we're moving towards a net zero environment. So what we've done at WeGo is combine satellite data from open source satellites, primarily coming from the European Space Agency and NASA, combining radar and optical missions that we fuse together using machine learning, adding as well ancillary data that we obtain from drone flights, station data, so pretty much everything that we can get our hands on, that we use to monitor environmental variables that are going to later convert into energy. So if we look at a hydropower dam, this would be so the snow that is in the mountains, the water that is stuck in the soil, or the volume of the lakes that are in the system. So if we will look at offshore wind, for example, it would be the speed of the wind, the height of the waves, the current velocity. So all these variables that we then are going to be modeling to see what is the future energy output. So obviously all these couldn't be possible without the European Space Agency, which has been financing and supporting this venture. And we had as well the participation of the Swiss state, particularly the Swiss Energy Agency, that supported as well this whole mission. So we started in 2021 in hydropower, monitoring things like the snow water equivalent, the melting of that snow, the soil water level, lake volume, etc. That now 17 clients are already using it to basically forecast water inflow and bring higher operation levels thanks to that. And we're right now starting our production on our product in the offshore wind industry, monitoring things like wave height, wind direction, wind speed, and current velocity, particularly looking at optimizing the levelized cost of energy for new developments of wind farms. So basically, we can provide historical data sets of these variables to electric utilities and developers that want to install new farms to be able to know where to install them and to be as efficient as possible. So in 2023, we will move into solar. So in a nutshell, what we're able to provide to these clients is how to, on one end, first create a more efficient energy production, and secondly, trade that energy at the best price possible in the market. So that's how we come up with the value proposition from site location assessment, generation, down to the trading of that energy. So I brought like a couple of examples. This would be what we're doing in hydropower. So here you can see how we're monitoring, in this case, snow levels, water levels, to optimize the trading of the future energy. So help reduce that uncertainty that these clean energy assets represent. And here I'm showing you as well shortly how we're helping doing new developments of offshore wind farms. So we are able to detect historical and aggregated wind speed, wind direction, to understand what is the best location for a new wind farm. We're able to know what are the trends in terms of direction of that wind, to be able to assess turbine wake impact assessment. And we're doing current velocity assessments as well for floating offshore, so that we don't suffer overturns. So primarily to help in new development of these projects. So I'm gonna stop there. So this is pretty much what WeGo is all about. So maybe now, Gonzalo, we can come back to the question of the financing and how we can actually bring this to reality.
Fantastic. So let's do so. So with your permission, maybe I'm also going to share a little bit, a few slides. Don't worry, it's going to be very brief. I'm not going really to spend lots of time, but it's also a little bit also for the audience to understand a little bit the importance of the role of public finance. So we have been talking a little bit about private finance, a company like yourself. For some reason, this is actually like blocked. Okay, now it's actually moving. So, well, we have seen basically now Wigo. Wigo is a very successful company that we have had the pleasure to support, but basically at the very beginning, he was supported by us, and also Wigo is actually using part of the service that they provide relies quite a lot on infrastructure developed through public money, in this particular case by ESA. So just for those of you that don't know, the European Space Agency, we are an intergovernmental organization, and we are very proud to say that we are probably the only space agency in the world that is actually active in all fields of space sciences. And our mission is to support European space industry to become more competitive. And we do that by investing in cutting-edge research and development, support the application development, and do other activities, which we started recently, including incubation and commercialization. Wigo is one of the very successful members of the Business Incubation Center that we have in Switzerland, and it has also been benefited from other funding lines that ESA provides. Just in a nutshell, this is the budget that ESA is spending in 2022. It's approximately 7.15 billion euros. And for your information, Spain is the 5th largest contribution. And as you can see here, the program of Earth observation is the largest, followed by the program of space transportation, navigation, and telecommunications, which are the main programs of the agency. So, in how we spend our budget, you have seen a chart with a number of things, but what we do typically is three main things. The first one is what we call ESA-initiated activities, which are activities dedicated to advance the European space technology roadmap. So we really would like to provide Europe autonomy. We really would like to, in space, we really would like Europe to be able to provide direct services to the European citizens, and we basically go there. And in this particular case, we have some examples of these ESA-initiated activities that are, for example, Moonlight, a mission to provide communications in the moon, JUICE, which is a science mission to try to understand the availability of life and water in some moons in Jupiter, or Earth Explorers, which are some scientifically driven missions whose aim is to try to understand better how Earth works as a system. These activities, because it's us, the ones that we are initiating them in order to advance the roadmap, are typically funded 100%. The second part is industry-initiated activities, in which what we are doing is we receive requests for industry saying, can ESA help me to advance my own technology roadmap or improve the product portfolio that we have? And because of that, we typically, what we do is to fund part of the development. Typically can be between 50 to 80%. That depends a little bit on the maturity of the solution and the market readiness. And examples of this is, for example, ARTES, the program of the ENC on satellite telecommunications, NAVIS, which is a program on applications on navigation technologies, or InCubed, which is a program from Earth Observation Directorate, whose aim is to try to develop commercial solutions starting from the technology into the service. The final part is partnerships of programs, which they are typically developed in cooperation with industry or institutions, for example, the European Commission. And some examples of this include the International Space Station, Galileo or Copernicus satellites, which is something that Wigo is actually benefiting from to provide part of the services, Meteosat satellites or AlphaSat. AlphaSat, I just mentioned it here because it's one example of a satellite operator coming to ESA saying, I really would like to advance my next generation of satellite services. Could you please help me? This is also a little bit something else because everything that you have seen relies a little bit more on the capability of European industry to provide research and development. But when we are talking about innovation, the idea is how we can actually push this idea forward. So we developed a little bit of an internal methodology in-house, focused on a set of KPIs that are listed in the table that we see. And the whole idea of this is to try to provide a sort of some data that investors can actually get. They don't get because we don't provide it, but at least we have certain certainty that if we get these companies to investors, they might have chances to get private investment into them. And we, for example, we organize some events that we call these investor forums, where we invite investors and companies to matchmake, and we are trying to make a selection based on KPIs like this on the companies that are going to be there for the investors. We have a number of lessons learned out of this, which are here, which in principle, like startups, generate more jobs per you invested, entering new markets means failure, but the companies that succeed deliver larger growth or impact, services correlate with larger impacts. But the clear point here is that all the companies that have achieved private investment outperform any other company in all the metrics that we have actually seen. And this is, for example, the case of Wigo. Wigo started as a public company, as a company funded by ISA in many aspects. Now they have private investment and they are in an exponential growth, which is actually something fantastic. So, Ian, I really would like to ask you a little bit. So, apart, of course, from saying a few words a little bit about the funding and the support that is provided to you, what was the key moment in which basically you realized that you have to go private money, and how was a little bit your journey? Please share it with our audience today.
So I think there is something really beneficial from this program, which is the fact that the money that you're able to raise from the European Space Agency Business Application Program is super useful for product development, which is rarely the case in which you are going to be able to raise funds, a seed round, early stage to do product development. Usually private investors will give you money, but it's for commercialization, so for growth. Now, when you basically spice this up and you say, okay, so I'm gonna be running 1 to 2 year project with the European Space Agency in which I'm going to take my technology from an early stage, hardly validated technology, lab ready technology to a pilot stage technology. And ESA is going to pay 50% or, from 50 to 70% of the cost. Then raising funds in that scenario is way more easy, right? And then you are basically subsidizing your R&D internally with the European Space Agency, and investors are going to be their investment being de-risked because their money is going to be straight going to growth. Although potentially, 30-40% of the whole round is going to be dedicated to solidifying the product, but primarily all that money is going to go to growth. And in the early stage is going to be primarily getting the first pilots in, getting the first recurrent revenue on board. So for a company like ours, which is Earth observations, which is way more application downstream, is a magnificent sort of financing.
So, for example, Ian, because this is also something that sometimes is a little bit mind-blowing, how an infrastructure like Copernicus allows you to provide services globally. This is a little bit something that is mind-blowing for a lot of people. Say, oh, using space, I can provide a service globally. I can provide services in South America, in Europe, in Australia. So how is that basically for a private investor? How does actually come in the mind of a private investor?
It's space, and we have other companies that are operating in space. Usually space investors, there are not many very good space investors because space is unknown. It can feel very sexy to invest in space and go around with your friends to say that you purchase stock of a space-based company. But many people are not very knowledgeable about how space systems work. So there is a lot of people that are interested in investing in you, but in the end, the ones that are going to write the check, there are not that many, because there is a big gap between truly understanding space technology. So this is, for example, a very good example. Many people think that satellites is kind of like you have the Earth and a satellite is here and is looking down the Earth and that's it, right? They're not able to fully understand that the satellite is orbiting and we have new data everywhere in the world daily, and that we can actually, validate the system in a particular size of the world and then implement the same technology in the other corner of the world, right? So when they're able to understand that, they can see the full potential of having a climate environment, which is environmental data solution. That is our case that can be deployed, because right now for example, we have clients in New Zealand, we have clients in Canada, and in the center of Europe. So we are fully international from day one.
And actually, thanks also to all the global technology like the internet, you are able to have your offices in Spain and you are able to serve all of them, which is fantastic, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
Very good. So, Ian, because I think that this is also something that is important for investors to understand. Imagine that something like Copernicus will not exist. How much money and time and effort would you have required in order to try to provide a service like the one that you are providing today?
Yeah, it would not be possible. It would not be possible because the thing is that our solution, we're not talking about the most high accurate solution for climate tech monitoring, right? What we're offering here is a really cost-effective solution that brings relatively high precision data in a really large scale. So, for example, if you're a company that is trying to build like a wind farm in the middle of the Baltic Sea, for example, we can pretty much cover the whole Baltic Sea and look for the perfect location, right? We're not saying that if you would do exactly that with LiDAR buoys or with other sensors, you will get better data, right? But the cost of acquiring that data, it would be way more higher than what we're able to provide. And our cost effectiveness comes from the fact that we have the constellation of Sentinel-1 and Sentinel-2 orbiting around the Earth and making that data public. Even though, for example, when something happens, one of these satellites are down for maintenance reason or technical reasons, is challenging to keep up the pace, right? Because the magic of the solution is the fact that we have several satellites at the same time, and they're able to give us a really, really nice and interesting time resolution for our clients.
So if I hear you well, what you're actually saying is that all the investment that we actually did as Europe in the past, I would say 15 years, in creating something like Copernicus is enabling you to provide innovation beyond what we initially provided. So do you have any wish that we can actually continue investigating in the future for helping you to provide even more services?
Wow, this is like a dream list. So obviously, having better time resolution, that would be fantastic, because I think we could have, if we would have more satellites, or we'll have new satellites that can provide better time resolution, that would be really, really good, because then we could, I'm talking about WeGo, right? Then we could give information almost intraday, right? So we would be able to monitor what's going on in terms of solar radiance, wind speed, wind direction for offshore wind, almost on an intraday basis. And that's, for example, a case that we're not able to build with commercial data set, because commercial data set is so expensive that the business case is not worth it. So that would be a really interesting case.
That would be a very interesting case, and I actually encourage if there is any entrepreneur in the audience to thinking a little bit about providing these things to contact us, because I mean we as ISA, what we are trying to do as much as possible is to try to act where there is no market. We created, for example, Copernicus in collaboration with the European Commission as a way to enable this infrastructure. But for example, aspects like the one that Ian is actually commented could actually be a perfect business opportunity for an entrepreneur, and he could actually benefit from us, ISA, providing some expertise and funding in starting this. And also, if we have entrepreneurs like Ian behind saying, hey, I could actually benefit and see a case for this if there is a price point for this data on a certain level, and providing that, it could actually be an enormously positive business opportunity for an entrepreneur that would like to get into this. Do you agree with me? I think.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing is that these costs, well, then we will have Jaume as well explain about how they have built such constellation. But these the price point of the upstream is going down quite dramatically. So we could see in the future that getting these level of satellites in orbit could be done in an affordable level, because that's basically what is going to unlock new markets. It's true as well that there is certain culture in the commercial, let's say in private industry. Many of these verticals are slowly but steadily jumping into geospatial data sets. It's taking them some time, but as soon as the data is going to be accessible and the price point is going to be reachable, I think everybody's going to jump in this because the scalability and the data quality that this provides is huge opportunity.
Well, I think that we are actually reaching the end of our time for this conversation. But Ian, before we say out, I mean, ask me a question at least.
So, I have a lot of questions. So, how do you see the financing program of the European Space Agency evolving? What is your strategy mid to long term with business applications program, artist funding, and all these?
Well,
programs.
I can actually comment very briefly on this thing. So you know that ESA traditionally is an organization that supports research and development, but more and more we see the need for organizations like ESA to enter into the place and start to be customers of organizations like yourself and other space companies. So one of the things that we are trying to do, and is actually one of the elements that we are working for in the next ministerial. For those of you that don't know what is the ministerial, is the tri-annual budget meeting of ESA. So every 3 years we go and we ask our member states to put money into ESA programs. So one of the elements that we are putting is what we call the commercialization element, and there we are trying to explore ways without violating the rules of public procurement and competition, in which we can actually buy products and services from industry, like for example you, or for example for a launcher, or for something like that. One of the elements that we are trying to work is, for example, trying to stimulate the market of applications by purchasing products from organizations like you and offering them as part of projects that we can actually do, on the condition that the people using them provide us some feedback that could actually help you to improve also your service as well. I hope that answers your question.
That's really interesting. So you have my email, Gonzalo. So when you want to discuss becoming a client, I'm here for you.
With pleasure. So with all this, I think that our conversation comes to an end. So I'm not so sure if you want to ask some questions or if we basically directly go to the second conversation.
Well, thank you very much, Ion and Gonzalo. We are very happy to see that such an innovative company like Ion has explained is Wigo is conducting business partly from Andalusia. And Gonzalo, I also have a question for you. When are we talking about how are we going to take more advantage of these programs from Andalusia?
Well, you know that one of the points about ESA is that you need to talk to the national delegation. In the case of Spain, this is CDTI, Centro para el Desarrollo Tecnológico Industrial, Spanish National Agency for Development and Industrial Innovation, and they are the ones that basically control the expenditure of these things. So I would actually say that apart from engaging with the CDTI, in the moment that the Spanish Space Agency is established in Andalusia, we will basically be best friends.
Okay, we hope so. Thank you very much, both of you.
With pleasure.
Okay, and now we'll move on to the next panel, where we have Alberto Pintado, who is Senior Manager of Indra Ventures. And Alberto has a deep experience in consultancy and IT projects in different positions, works as an international business development manager for telecommunication sector in Indra, a leading IT company in Spain. And he has deep experience in pre-sales activities and leading commercial and technical propositions on 3 continents. Hello, Alberto.
Hello, good afternoon, Fernando.
No.
Pleasure to be here with you today. Thank
you very much for accepting the invitation. And also we have with us Jaume Sampera, CEO of Sateliot. Jaume is an experienced CEO with a demonstrated history of working in the telecommunication industry, and is a strong entrepreneurship professional graduated from IESE. He has been appointed by Fortune, you didn't tell us that, Jaume, by Fortune as one of the 100 most creative businessmen. Serial entrepreneur, founder of Technotrends, exited in 3 years, founder of Ambientum, founder of Eurona, the #1 telecom satellite operator in Europe, listed in 2010, and now Sateliot. So I will give you the floor for both of you to introduce a little bit of
about your companies, and then follow on with the panel. Okay.
Perfect. Well, hello, Yama. Good to see you again. Why don't you tell us a bit more about Satelliot and what are your plans? And after that, I will introduce also Indra Ventures, what we do, and we could start talking about the financing, which is an interesting thing.
You are in mute, Jaume.
Okay, now let me share my screen. Okay, do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you for the feedback. Okay. Hello, I'm Jaume Sampere. As Fernando has said, about all the Fortum, I'm mainly an entrepreneur, okay, starting up companies, and the last one is Satelliot or Satelliot. To explain what we are doing, we have to start with a couple of slides about the ecosystem. You all have seen the presentation of Apple with the last iPhone 14 that it connects directly with the global star satellite constellation. Or you may have known about the announcement of SpaceX joining with T-Mobile, delivering coverage directly from space to the mobile. All these show us that we are at the brink of a global revolution. Something is happening in industry. Since today, okay, the satellite industry and the telecommunications industry were two complete separate industries. There is a Congress in Washington that is called satellite. There is a Congress in Barcelona, it's mobile, and they are both their own wars. But things are changing. In IoT, that's where we are in our business. Okay, we could look at the market, and since today, if you wanted to connect to an IoT device in the middle of nowhere, you need something like this one. Okay, this is a satellite IoT device that connects directly, in this case with Orcom, but Iridium, Global Star, and others, that allows you to connect devices everywhere you are. The problem of this device is size, of course, cost, because $400 to $500 each, and monthly 20 to 30 euros. And this is because it's fully proprietary. The Orcom devices that work with Iridium ones and that work with others. There are no economies of scale. If you want to connect in the middle of the city, this is the device that you may have. Okay, this is a 5G IoT device. In the world, there are already 2 billion devices like this one. The cost of it is $5, which is extremely cheap. And the only reason is because all the mobile operators of the world are using exactly the same standard, and this means that they have all the economies of scale. Then what we are doing, we are deploying the unique satellite constellation that connects the 5G IoT customers that use devices, low-cost devices like this one, of the mobile operators when they reach out-of-coverage places. We are a group of serial entrepreneurs that have been working together for the last 10 years in different companies. We're experts in high growth and new technologies. We are breaking the traditional approach of the satellite industry that has been working for the last 30 years with proprietary devices that are incompatible and therefore super expensive. And we have been doing it from inside the mobile industry. In the mobile industry, there is an organization that is called 3GPP that set up the standard 2G, 4G, 3G, 4G, and 5G now. And we have been the #1 operator in the world in number of contributions to lead the new 5G IoT standard, the standard for the devices of this, the new release, the new version of the standard. And we have succeeded in having, for first time in history, the same standard that was for mobile and satellite. And this changed everything because this allowed us to connect all the devices of the world directly from space under a mobile standard. Basically, we deploy our first satellite last year. We are going commercial next year with the deployment of 5 more satellites. Our satellites, when the customers of the mobile operators lose the coverage,
It connects in a seamless way to our satellites, that it delivers back information to the mobile operators in a single roaming agreement. All this has positioned us in a unique place of the IoT SATCOM market. Our competitors, okay, they work with proprietary devices, which means, okay, that are expensive. We are the only one, okay, that have a technology that is designed for massive IoT. And for us, it's a super scalable go-to-market strategy, because we offer this extension of coverage to these 2 billion devices that already exist today, or to the 5 billion that we will have that will be in the market by 2025. And we have all the channel engaged and technological integrations ongoing. We have already signed with mobile operators in 47 countries that represent more than 1 billion subscribers. Among them, so it's Telefónica, okay, and its group, as we announced a couple of months ago. And we have demonstrated our traction in technology. We are going to be commercial next year. We have a frequency allocation from the ITU. The ITU is the International Telecommunications Union, to allow us to deploy up to 500 satellites, and a unique technology. In commercial, we have agreements with MNOs, with the mobile operators, a lot of pre-orders that validates our market, and a model that allows infinite scalability. And this is the funding. That's the topic of today. Okay, we started with in 2018 to 2020. We did a couple of seed rounds of 2.5 million euros. By 2021, we closed a Series A, super important, 10 million euros, that with the participation of Alberto's company, Indra, that validates our technology uniqueness, and with Cellnex, that validates our go-to-market strategy. On the same Series A participates our Scofides, Evo Nexus, and Seraphine, and others. And now we are on the Series B. And things are getting more complicated, okay? Because we are talking about a first pre-series of 10 million euros to go up to 100 million euros Series B, which means, okay, that we are going to fund or to do a capital increase before being commercial, in pre-commercial mode. We foresee by 2024, 2025 an exit that for sure will be an IPO. Everything is aligned to lead the IoT satellite sector. We have an exponential market that is growing up to 5 billion devices by 2025 in the same standard. A unique technology that allows us to generate sales from day one, super scalable go-to-market strategy, pre-orders already signed, and the first commercial constellation next year. This is where we are right now, okay? There are no easy places, but for sure we are going to try it.
Well, thank you very much. Amazing presentation, Jaume. Now I have to present Indra Ventures, and probably I will not be as interesting as yours, but at least I expect it to be short, okay? So what we do in Indra Ventures. Indra Ventures is the corporate venturing unit of Indra, and Indra is a global technology and consulting company. As Jaume said, we have revenues in 2021 of 3.4 or near 3.4 billion in 2021, with more than 52,000 employees around the world, and with presence in more than 140 countries. And we had the R&D expenditure of 293 million euros. So Indra is a quite big and complex company, and we have the business organized in two main business units. One which is transport and defense, where we provide solutions and services to the defense and security market, air traffic control and transport. And we have a digital and information technologies branch, which operates under the name of Minsight, which provide product solutions and services to our customers in different verticals, ranging from financial services and insurance to telecom and media, energy and industry, and public administrations and healthcare. So, as we have previously said, we are very focused on R&D. We want to be an innovative company, and the innovation is at the very heart of our strategy. Okay, so from Indra Ventures, what we want to promote is the open innovation both inside the company and outside the company. And that's why we look for startups that are aligned with the strategic interests of the company in order to invest in them if we think there is a strategic alignment with the business units, or even to collaborate with them if we think it's interesting, but it's not really strategic. Of course, our investment is always strategic, and this is difficult without the collaboration. But we see the investment as a tool. It's not a goal for us. I mean, we don't have an amount of money to invest like a typical venture fund. We just invest in those companies that we think are interesting and really aligned with our business. What we look for? Well, we look for startups with disruptive potential, like Satelliot, aligned with our strategy, as we said, with a B2B business model and focused on technology, mainly on digital technologies or deep tech. We cover a wide range of digital technologies, from blockchain or artificial intelligence to HIoT, cybersecurity of augmented and virtual reality, and also other more deep tech technologies like quantum, photonics, biometrics, robotics, radar, and also new space. We just invest in direct investment, or we could also evaluate other formulas like for equity or convertible notes. So with this, I think that I have introduced a bit of Indra Ventures, and now we could start talking about the financing. Jaume, you have explained very well the different round you have had since the inception of Satelliot, but as I suppose it's a really hard path here, especially here in Spain, I think, for a deep tech company and the new space. What lessons have you learned along the way? What do you think is the more remarkable thing?
Oh, the first lesson is the space is hard, okay? This is the first one that you learn. On all the deep tech companies, they have a long period before being commercial, and this is something that difficulty is always the path to funding. What I would say is that I would distinguish several phases. First one is R&D. R&D, the main player have to be the public administration and a small seed rounds. And that's the way to work, okay? The only thing here that I may say is that ISA, it's an excellent instrument. Spain is doing a very good job. We need to be more agile. Okay, this is my desire for the future, my wish list. Okay, that the same money, but in a shorter time. Okay, this is what we need. Okay. Then second, okay, it's when you start your deployment. Okay, with deployment pre-commercial. Here, companies like Indra, it's super helpful. One of the main problems in the space is that there are very few funds that really understands what we are doing. It's new, it's difficult, and there are no specialists on this. Then Indra or Cellnex, when they invest in companies like us, apart from the money, there is a very good outcome, okay, which is the validation of the company. If Indra invests in Satelliot, it means that we have a technology that has been validated by experts in the industry. And this is super helpful. And then it comes the second part, which is the one, okay, that we still have to we can start to set up how do we have to do it in Spain and in Europe in general. It's before being commercial, you need to deploy, in our case, our conservation. You need more money, okay? And we are talking about, in our case, 100 million euros. And there are very few funds in Spain and in Europe in general dedicated to these pre-commercial deep tech companies that could be the ones to invest. And we have to take into account, okay, that if we think about one company dedicated to internet, to the .com company, a large .com company in Europe, we don't have anyone, okay. Space it's the new internet. We have just at the beginning of a revolution, a global revolution that will change everything. Then this is the moment to create large European companies that will be, okay, the ones that will have high value labors, workers, okay, in our countries, okay, and this is exactly what we are looking for and we have to look for as a government and as a large company like you, Indra, and we hope that in one day, okay, we'll also push in the same direction. But this is really worrying, okay, because when you talk about with any American VC, the first what they say is that, okay, we may invest in you, but you have to become an American company. And this is a lot of talent that goes out of Europe and makes our country more poorer in the future.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. You mentioned both public and private funds. How do you manage this? Because I suppose that there are certain situations that may be a problem to have public institutions in investing in your company and also private companies. Because, for example, as you mentioned, in the US, probably is always private. I don't think there are too much public funds, but in Europe, it's quite typical to have both public and private. And what challenges did this present?
No. In this case, I think that you have a wrong vision of the U.S. market. Okay, if we think about the first space entrepreneur that it comes to mind, it's Elon Musk. Elon Musk has received more than 10 billion euros from the American government.
Yeah.
There is a lot here. Okay, the issue is that they use a completely different instrument. Okay, what they use is the purchase services, innovation services that have to be purchased. That they have an obligation of purchasing part of all the administrations, local, federal, and government administration. A percentage of the purchasing, okay, have to be done to SMEs, okay, and to innovation companies. This helps a lot because it's real. Services that you deliver back to a customer, and that in this case is a public customer, but that it helps you a lot to develop your. But at the same time, what I say is that one of the main things in public is uncertainty. Okay, you never know how long it will take to have the money. You never know the decision, not just to have the money on your bank account, which is the final step again, but just to know that you have been awarded with some public money. It takes from 6 months to in some cases for more than 1 year. We cannot wait for that. Okay, then all the deployment, all evolution has been based on public money and private money. And public money, if it comes, it's additional to. It's additional to it. We have to also to distinguish that Cofidis. Cofidis also has invested in us. Cofidis is an excellent instrument, okay, that is public money that acts as a venture investor. This is spectacular, okay? More than this will be needed on the industry.
Really interesting, Jaume, to see your views on the financing and also the effort that you have to put a company like Sateliot from the inception to the Series A and now to the Series B. Well, I have a lot of questions, but I think we are running out of time, and we are. I don't want to keep more time. So for me, it's a pleasure to have this conversation with you, Jaume. And I don't know if you have any questions or do you have to comment anything else?
No, thanks a lot for the invitation. It was a pleasure to converse with you, Alberto.
Sounds to me.
Okay, thank you very much to both of you, Jaume and Alberto, for the very interesting conversation think well, Jaume knows that we have a lot of homeworks in some of the topics that he mentioned. Hopefully it will improve in this way. In the meantime, I hope very good luck with the future exit, with the future IPO in Nasdaq. Well, thank you very much, both of you, for attending the event. And finally,
pleasure.
And finally, we continue with the last intervention. In this case, it's a brief presentation of the Eic Accelerator. And for that, we have Rebecca de Sancho. Rebecca, hello, how are you? Rebecca is an investment manager at the European Innovation Council Fund. It's the venture arm of the European Commission. Rebecca also serves as a board observer at a number of companies, and has more than 18 years experience managing international EU projects and building partnership. Rebecca, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the invitation. It's the second year. Very happy to be here and support the space sector. After such inspiring presentations, I'll try to do my best to give a hint on the EIC and the Eic Accelerator. Let me know when my presentation is on. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, it's
there. It's going. Okay, thank you. So as you said, the European Innovation Council, well, first started as a pilot and is the most ambitious innovation initiative in the EU with a 10 billion program. No, what are we looking for? We are looking for, as many of the previous speakers have spoken about, deep tech in many of the verticals, including space. Deep tech technologies to develop and scale up these breakthrough technologies and these disruptive innovations in Europe. It has been created unique to combine research on emerging technologies with an accelerator for startups and SMEs and the scale-ups. And as you said, the part of the fund is the largest VC deep tech investor in Europe with over 3 billion. And it is innovator-centric. Why I'm saying that? It's steered by a board and leading innovators until today, with a proactive approach and with flexible funding that I will explain a little bit later, and enhancing the innovation ecosystem in Europe. So to put a little bit of the different types of innovations that can be financed, there are three types of funding. I want to focus more on the accelerator, as I understand it's more the public and the audience of today, but there's also the Pathfinder and transition. So depending on the TRL levels of the technologies, you can also apply for other funding like Pathfinder for early stage research, and the transition for technology maturation. On the accelerator, we are looking to develop and scale up deep tech, as I said, disruptive innovations, with also a novelty that it was introduced as from 2019 on blended finance. So it's the first time that it's combined the grant up to 2.5 million with equity investment that can go up to 15 million. It is the successor of the ASM instrument for those who knows previous EU funding on innovation. And well, it's built to accompany the companies until the scale-up process and beyond with the fund to sustain in the long run the development and the scale-up of the company. So there are also business acceleration services for that. What is the EIC Accelerator concretely? What can you apply for? So as I said, there is the blended finance, like a novelty, with the equity and the grant combined, but there is also grant only and grant first. So I don't have it in the presentation, but at the very end, I have a link where you can go to how to apply. So there are the steps where we have developed now 2 phases, like the short application to prove the concept, and then to go for a full application with a jury of experts that will assess and then award your funding. And it can be classified across, you can apply for blended finance or, as said, grant only. In the case of grant first, it can be followed up later with equity. I wanted to present, so the good news, there are space projects. I had some statistics here. Let me try to find it. So, well, as you see, the portfolio is including debris removal, end of life, launchers, Earth observation, spatial situational awareness, Internet of Things. So there are many disruptive technologies, very critical, important to the growth of the EU space economy. And so across the last years, the pilot had funded an amount of 50 million in grants approximately, and more than 50 million committed on the equity side. That doesn't mean that they have been committed as of today, as this is a long-term process. As you know, it's sometimes the different equity rounds and the tranches that goes with the scaling up of the companies. And for the cutoff into 2021, there were 22 millions in grants awarded for space companies and 28 million in equity committed. So just to give you an example, there were in 2021 8 companies in space. This was dropped. I don't have the figures for 2022, as not all of them have signed the grants agreements. But I hope with this presentation as well that I encourage more projects to apply for the EIC funding. Here you can see some examples of the companies that we have between the technology readiness level 6 and 9. Some names are Satagility, Go-to-Market, Embrace2, Cassiope, and Crop Cloud. So they go from Earth observation, the Internet of Things, and optical observation stations. So it's a variety of different type of projects. What I wanted to tell you about the EIC Fund, that has been also very much on the news, as you know, and going back to what it was said before about public funding not being agile enough. In the pilot, we managed to be quite agile in the funding of grants and then setting up the EIC fund. Then it went through different processes. And in 2021, that took longer. We are hopeful that as from this year, the last cutoff, this will be improving, and the signature of grants will take less than 6 months. And so focusing on the EIC fund, it manages the equity investments of the startups, dedicated venture capital, and it bridges the equity funding gap. So helps the company to get from an early stage to the next rounds. And crowding investors. So having the label of a public institution, European institution as the EIC, allows the companies to get access to other investors. And the investment strategy is invest in early stage, in seed, startup, and scale-ups from 0.5 to 15 millions in equity or quasi-equity, with follow-on capital in subsequent series, as I mentioned before, different tranches, depending obviously on the rounds and the specificity of each of the companies and the projects. What are we looking for? We are looking for SMEs with powerful, promising teams. So it's a complex and enhancing. It has to be in several aspects, not only on the technology. You have to demonstrate when you are at the interview that you have a good team with you, that the technology it's disruptive and is either to create new markets or to disrupt the current one. And obviously it will have an impact. So there are many elements that you need to demonstrate. And yeah, this something else I wanted to focus is that pacing capital. So we are not here to live tomorrow, but to stay a maximum of 15 years, but I would say an average of 7 to 10 years. This will be different depending on the companies. Some companies might be absorbed by others. There will be different situations as we speak, and we are coming just from a pilot. And then we take minority ownership, so only from 10% to maximum at 25%, up to a blocking minority in cases that the EIC identified as strategic for the EU. Why crowding is important? As I said, we help also to attract other investors, to build a large network of capital providers and strategic partners. And that does not aim, of course, to replace or displace the market. And the objective overall is to increase the chances of the company to succeed and to multiply the value of taxpayers' money in the long run. So in the future, the future is today, is being restructured. It was managed by direct management in the Commission, and it will be managed indirectly by an external fund manager. The EIB, who has been running the due diligence, will continue doing that and will continue to be the investment advisor to the Eic Fund. And there is no impact on the funding offer. It's just the structure, and the management will be by an external fund manager. But it's made components and follow-up of all the processes of the different projects, including the equity. What's in for investors? Well, it's a pipeline of investment opportunities with EIC, who shares the risk. Since 2020, there were co-investments alongside the EIC fund up to 15 million in equity, as I said, and a large portfolio of companies. An example of what we intend to do in co-investment support for the EIC companies is venture building, networking, and fundraising. We accompany sometimes we facilitate that the companies go to events. Like today, I'm just landed in Prague for the EU Space Week. And there are some pitching events or some investors connections that are happening around all these events that take place. So we certainly facilitate contacts with investors and with other type of support. This is the platform for investors, and this is the link on the Eic Accelerator and how to apply. Those are the cutoff days. In this year, it's on the 5th of October. So that's the last cutoff date for this year. And then the interview weeks that will take place between end of November and December. So thank you very much. And I'm happy to take some questions.
Well, thank you very much, Rebecca, for the interesting presentation. I hope that some of our attendees may take advantage of the EIC, of the program, and get funding on these next calls. I don't know, I'm checking, but I don't think there is any questions so far. And no, there is no question so far, and so we are running out of time. I think we are a little bit late on the schedule. I think we will just finish here. We remember that we can share the presentations if any of the attendees is interested. You can ask and we will send it to you. And with that, I think we will leave it here. So thank you very much. I hope it has been an interesting webinar, and see you in the next one. Thank you very much.
Thank you.